We know there's strength in taking a united front, but we cannot achieve our shared provincial goals without cooperation from the federal government. Alberta knows this, Saskatchewan knows this, Ontario knows this, and it's time for the federal government to acknowledge it as well. And if Prime Minister Mark Carney doesn't want to work with us, it's not just myself and Scott Moe he'll have to worry about. He'll also have to contend with Premier Doug Ford, who has said many times he'll be all over him like an 800-pound gorilla.
Guess what? It's July 22nd. Do you know what that means? It's the day after Canada's self-imposed deadline to secure a trade deal with Donald Trump in the United States yesterday. Which also means today was the day that they had their premier's emergency meeting with Mr. Mark Carney. Which means August 1st, deadline of 35% tariffs incoming is still on the table. And guess what? The trade talks are still not looking good. And well, we find out more of what's been going on as the premiers talk to the media today. And Danielle Smith says, it is time to have some real conversations. And guess what? The premiers of some of our more influential provinces in the country are now coming together, banning against Mr. Mark Carney. And well, he tries to pull a sly one as well. It is very fascinating. So much going on. Welcome to the LA Podcast. I'm your host, Josh. If you get any value from today's show, feel free to take the time to like, share, and subscribe. Helps us to grow, helps us get to new audiences, helps us to diversify our trade partners. No, I'm just kidding. No, but it's so great. It helps us out a lot and really helps people, give another option that is different from the mainstream media. Now, please, let's get into our first story, shall we? Huntsville, Ontario is the site for the new premier's meeting, the emergency meeting to be had with Mr. Mark Carney and the premiers across the country, the first minister's meeting, they would say. And Danielle Smith made sure to kick it off before Mark Carney arrived. She made sure to kick it off with a shot across the bow kind of announcement. To make sure that putting Mark Carney on notice before these meetings start to make sure things get figured out so that they can put our country in the right place and take care of business. And this is what she had to say here.
Today marks an important step forward in uniting our country as Saskatchewan jumps on board with Alberta and Ontario to pursue our shared goals of economic growth, opportunity, and prosperity. Today, we're signing a memorandum of understanding that makes Saskatchewan an official signatory and partner as we work together on building oil and gas pipelines and expanding trade corridors to global markets. This agreement will see our three provinces advance pipelines and pathways to boost exports of homegrown energy, potash, critical minerals and agricultural products to markets across Canada and across the world. And when it comes to advancing these goals, it's undeniable that there is strength in numbers. Together, we're taking an unprecedented step to further unify our efforts to get shovels in the ground on major projects across industries with one ultimate outcome in mind: connecting our world-class resources and value-added products to Canada's growing list of customers. Our three provinces will also continue our joint calls for the removal of federal barriers to nation-building projects so we can collectively advance pipelines, rails, transmission infrastructure, and other major projects. We know there's strength in taking a united front, but we cannot achieve our shared provincial goals without cooperation from the federal government. Alberta knows this, Saskatchewan knows this, Ontario knows this, and it's time for the federal government to acknowledge it as well. And if Prime Minister Mark Carney doesn't want to work with us, it's not just myself and Scott Moe he'll have to worry about. He'll also have to contend with Premier Doug Ford, who has said many times he'll be all over him like an 800-pound gorilla. So it's time to get rid of the bad laws that have harmed Canada's ability to grow the energy sector and other industries such as mining and manufacturing. By now, you should all know these bad laws that I speak of quite well. Bill C-69, the oil and gas emissions cap, the tanker ban, the net zero vehicle, and net zero electricity mandates. Removing these anti-resource, anti-development laws will allow Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Ontario to attract the investment and project partners we need to get shovels in the ground, grow industries, and create jobs. So I'm excited to continue collaborating so that we can reach our shared goals, including to advance pipelines and responsible energy development. This new way of working together across provincial borders will benefit the people of Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Ontario, and ultimately all people across Canada. And I'm hopeful that today's momentum continues to build and leads to even more provinces and territories joining us.
Danielle Smith, shot across the bow. We are working with Saskatchewan and Ontario now to have a memorandum of understanding that we are going to work together to get pipelines built, resources developed, and get things out to new markets. That's how this is all going to go. We're going to work together to make this happen. Mark Carney, Liberal government, you can get on board or you can get left in the dust. Which When is it going to be? Obviously, she does the politically correct thing and says, no, we can't do this without you. But this is a warning shot to say, we will do this without you if you decide you do not want to participate. Then she goes ahead to name, the bills that we've heard about time and time and time again that have been really hindering development in our country. Here you have Mr. Moe, who goes into details of how Saskatchewan is going to participate, what's going to happen. And then we're actually going to show Doug Ford and his response to all of this and how Ontario is looking to participate as well. When it comes to memorandum of understanding, you have to think of one thing. This is not a legally binding document. It's not in any way going to force anyone to really do anything. However, what these types of documents do is it really forges partnerships. It gives credence and documentation to the vision that provinces want to work together. And really, at the end of the day, it is a symbol and is a sign to the federal government that they need to get out of the way, or the likes of Alberta, Ontario, and now Saskatchewan are going to run them out of town if they don't get on board, which I know it seems crazy. I know at times our federal government seems to have a little too much power in this country. However, there's one thing about our system that people tend to forget. The provinces have more power than you realize. And the federal government can be a stumbling block. They can be a speed bump, but they will never be a true barrier because of how our system is set up. Mark Carney is going to try and get into his way. The likes of Guilbeault are going to try and get in the way, but they actually can't fully stop it if provinces decide to work together like this. Provinces can't do it one by one, but if they come together, that's where the true power is, and that's what we're seeing today. And this was as I said, a sign and a shot across the bow to Mark Carney and the Liberal Party to see that Ontario and Alberta are coming together, and now Saskatchewan's coming together. Some of our richest provinces when it comes to manufacturing, when it comes to resource development, when it comes to farming and agriculture. The warning was sent right before Mark Carney arrived for the Premier's meeting in Huntsville, Ontario. But in response to this, Doug Ford follows up, and this is what he had to say.
Because when Ontario, Alberta, Saskatchewan come together, we're not just signing a piece of paper, we're sending a clear message. Canada is ready to build. And we're going to get it done as one Team Canada. For too long, we've seen projects after project get tied up in red tape, regulation, delayed, blocked, and then canceled. But today, the world needs what Canada has. It's time to think big. It's time to bring our critical minerals, our oil, our natural gas and energy to new markets across the globe. It started earlier this month when I visited Premier Smith during the Calgary Stampede, and what a great host Premier Smith was, and boy, you had quite the party. Is the party still going on? We signed an agreement to work hand in hand to build new energy and trade infrastructure. And today, Saskatchewan is stepping up. Premier Moe has offered his full support, and that's a game changer. Let me tell you our plan. This new agreement will help move Western oil and gas to new and existing refineries in southern Ontario and to northern Tidewater with deep sea port in James Bay. It will connect Ontario's critical minerals in the Ring of Fire region to new ports in Western Canada, helping to build a true end-to-end critical mineral supply chain. All of it will be built using great Ontario-made and Saskatchewan-made steel, creating jobs, attracting investment, and unlocking the full potential of our economy. And all of it will be done in partnership with Indigenous communities. Canada's premiers are stepping up. Now, we need the federal government to do its part. We need the federal government to fix its broken regulatory environment and streamline approvals. And I agree 100% without listing them all. We're all in agreement what Premier Smith said. If we don't get rid of these regulations, things won't fly. But we need to do that, and hopefully we'll convince the Prime Minister to do the same thing. There's no more time to waste. We're focused on a future for all Canadians, where we stand united, take control of our own destiny, and build prosperity the likes of which we've never seen before.
So that is Mr. Doug Ford. And you know, as anyone who knows the show knows, I'm no fan of Mr. Doug Ford. However, I can see what's going on here and what's happening in terms of the chess game that is being played. As I said, they've maneuvered themselves in such a way to say, hey, federal government, get your crap together because we're coming. We want to work with you. However, we will steamroll you if we have to. Which way do you want it? Let us know. We can fight or we can work together. Let us know, because there was a clip earlier today that was circulating social media. Within the context it was being shared, it was like, oh, Doug Ford, he just loves Mark Carney. Quite frankly, that's the reaction I had when I saw this. However, in seeing them talk, seeing how this is being all positioned and being how it's maneuvered, from a political perspective, I'm seeing what Doug Ford is doing. Again, this announcement came before the premier's meeting with Mark Carney later today. And here's what Doug Ford did in introducing Mark Carney to the meeting.
We don't have to take a back seat to anyone in the world, and we sure the heck don't have to take a back seat to President Trump. Again, Prime Minister, I want to thank you for joining us for this FMM. It's refreshing to some of us that have been around this table for some time to have a Prime Minister that has our backs, that are out there. He's a great community builder, and he's a brilliant businessman. And I'm confident that he's going to take the business approach to our federal government that we haven't seen for a long time. So thank you very much, everyone. And I guess let's get started.
So when I first saw this, I was like, I want to puke. Of course, Doug Ford, oh, Mark Carney's the man. He's so great. Blah, 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 blah. But then when you see what happened earlier today, you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar, as the saying goes. And that's exactly what I'm seeing happen here is, hey, they put the federal government on notice earlier in the day. Then afterwards, when the Mark Carney was in the room, it can be seen as double-faced. However, it could also be seen as this. We want to work with you. We will prop you up. We will sing your praises. We are willing to work here. We're not just going to dump on you every chance we get. And that's what I'm seeing Doug Ford doing here, especially as he's the chair of this meeting. He does have to act in a political fashion. As I said, not a huge fan of Mr. Doug Ford, not a huge fan of what he's done in the past. However, I can see the forest from the trees here. I can see what is happening. These stupid bills that are in place need to go. We need to get rid of them. However, hey, let's work together. We appreciate what we've done so far with Donald Trump. Even if it's true or not true, it doesn't really matter. Sometimes you got to fluff some feathers, kiss some babies to be able to get things moving ahead. And that's exactly what I saw happening here. When I saw it in the 38 seconds as it was, I was like, rolled my eyes, couldn't go further back in my head. But then when I saw everything in context, it started making sense. And maybe the pressure's working because Mr. Mark Carney posted this today. Diversifying our trade partners, creating high-paying careers, building a stronger Canadian economy, with this being the headline from Financial Post. Canada's first large-scale shipment of LNG delivered to port in South Korea, as reported on July 17th, 2025. When I first saw this, I was like, finally, we're actually getting some things moving. Maybe I actually am going to do an episode where I'm like, hey, we got to give props where props is due. Mark Carney's doing things. We love to see it. So I was curious when this project started. I was curious of the LNG terminal of which this LNG came from. When did it start? When did it get built? I know things can take some time to move in this country. Looking into it, this particular LNG terminal received its environmental assessment certificate back in 2018, meaning it had just passed all the regulations it needed to pass in order to start being built. So this LNG terminal started being built in 2018. I was like, okay, well, it's been some time. 8 years. But we finally are getting LNG to market. Cool. When did the regulation and getting things signed start? I was curious. The permitting and facility approval started in June of 2015. I was like, whoa. So it's been 10 years since this terminal even first started trying to break ground. It's been 10 years since this terminal even started the certification of trying to get this thing going. And this was the part that killed me the most. Canada-Korea Free Trade Agreement Final Environmental Assessment Report. The Canada-Korea Free Trade Agreement negotiations were launched on July 15th, 2005. After 13 rounds of negotiations within the first 3 years, in 2008, the talks reached an impasse. Following a period of active re-engagement, starting in 2012, Canada and Korea formally resumed negotiations, with round 14 taking place in November of 2013. The conclusion of negotiations was announced in Seoul by Prime Minister Stephen Harper and Korean President Park Geun on March 11th, 2014. The following year is when LNG terminals started their certification process to eventually be built in BC. All the assessments passed by 2018, and it started being built, claiming it would be done by 2020. My friends, that terminal just finished in 2025. So this announcement of parading around by Mark Carney was one of the last energy relics from the Harper era. He's the man you call in a crisis. He's the man who's looking to try and make Canada the strongest economy in the G7. Yet he's taking credit for the results of a project that was started under Stephen Harper. Mr. Harper's been out of politics a long time now. Been a decade. That's how long it took for this thing to be built and finally get our first shipment of LNG to South Korea after landing on free trade agreement in 2014. So when you see Danielle Smith getting a little irritated, when you see the likes of other premiers getting frustrated that the stupid laws that get in the way of them being able to develop their resources keeps happening, well, this is why provinces are now working together to try and overcome those obstacles and put a warning shot against the federal government. Because it quite frankly doesn't matter. Even when Mark Carney says things like this about how things are going.
We will have a discussion on the current state of negotiations with the United States. I will say that, as you are aware, our senior ministers, my chief of staff, myself, were engaged in continuous discussions. Minister LeBlanc will be reinforcing those discussions over the next few days in Washington with the United States. We are looking for the best deal for Canada. We're only going to accept the best deal for Canada. That is very much informed by our discussions. We understand as well that we all understand that the global trade environment is changing, and there are some countries that are pulling back, that are restricting market access. But there's even more countries that are opening up to market access, and the premiers have helped lead this with individual trade initiatives to Asia, to Europe, with partners around the world, and we are building on those. And part of what we will discuss is how we can be best coordinated to building positive trade relationships with reliable partners.
Seeing you take credit for a 10-year-old project doesn't really get me excited that you're going to get something done here with Donald Trump. We know that things are getting very vicious in those talks. We know that things are not looking great in general. We know that supply management is definitely a huge point of tension that exists. Either what I'm understanding, especially from the likes of Howard Lutnick have said and alluded to, if supply management goes away, well, you'll have a fully free trade agreement with the United States. If supply management stays, then you're going to have a tariff relationship with the United States. Which one do you want? That is what we're seeing, and that's what we're discovering through all of this. So we'll see what the results of this full premiers meeting is. We know that all premiers are making announcements to their constituents after this meeting today, and we'll see more of what the announcements are, and I'll be curious of what the posture is against or with the federal government and Mark Carney. But anyways, enjoy your day. Have yourselves a good one. I'm out.